Sure. Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee Caprio?
Present.
Trustee Rogers? Present. Trustee Sweet?
Present.
Trustee Barrier?
Present.
Mayor Yutrick?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? I would like to add one if there's no, if no one else has. I would like to put on executive session for two things, land acquisition and matters of personnel. Is that fine with everybody? Yes. Okay. We should probably roll call or make a motion and,
So moved.
all right, second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We need approval of minutes for February 10th, 2016.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Barrier?
Aye. Motion carries. F, schedule of accounts payable. John is,
If you have any questions on it, I'll be happy to answer them. Usually it just goes for,
I'm absolutely fine. Does anyone have any questions on what we've been paying? I mean, everything that's before us right now went through admin and finance and everything's been approved, so,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do you want to call the roll on that?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Barrier?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Reports and communications, I'll start it off. For the Village Hall renovation, as you know, on February 18th, we had a special village board meeting, and a construction contract was awarded to Troop Contracting for renovation work at the new Village Hall. A pre-construction meeting was held today to complete miscellaneous items before the construction begins. As construction begins, I will continue to provide updates through my weekly mayor's block. 2, Illinois Metropolitan Investment Fund cuts recovery estimate. IMET has lowered the amount it expects to recoup after losses in the alleged fraudulent loan scheme. Historical information about this issue is posted on the government transparency portion of the village's website. Finance Director John Sawyers will give us an update on this issue during his treasurer's report this evening. And then if we could have a moment of silence for Alan Campbell. Alan Campbell recently lost his battle to cancer. Alan was a 16-year resident of Homer Glen and was one of the original EMA volunteers for the village. So please join me in a moment of silence. Okay. From here, we'll switch over to trustee reports, and we'll start with Trustee Barrier.
No report, Mayor.
Okay, Trustee Costa.
Mayor, I'd like to hold mine off until new business, if I could, please.
That's fine. Trustee Rogers.
I have nothing to report.
Trustee Sweet.
Our next Parks meeting, Environment Committee, our next Parks meeting, Environmental Committee meeting, and our Harvest Days is not until next week. So I do not have any new information to report since our last board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Sweet. Trustee Caprio.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Village Treasurer.
yes, Mayor, I have the two reports tonight, the Treasurer's Report and an update on IMET. The Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments is January 31st, 2016, showed the general fund with a balance of $5,115,610.41. The special event fund had a balance of $89,365.91. The environmental fund had a balance of $48,852.08. Motor fuel tax fund had a balance of $2,532,576.82. The Park and Recreation Fund had a balance of $2,620,628.54. The Debt Service Fund had a cash and investment balance of $752,291.09. The Capital Project Fund had a balance of $3,352,942.49. The EAB Tree Replacement Fund had a balance of $484,712.30. And the last fund, the Bond Fund, had a cash and investment balance of $15,201,498.30 for a grand total of $30,198,477.94. I'd also like to report on IMET. The village received an IMET update dated February 18th from IMET stating that the estimated net realizable value from theft through fraud was lowered from 53.5% to 47.6%. This was also reported on in the business section of the Trib on Sunday. As with all the IMET updates, they're uploaded to the village website under the transparency portal. I'd like to put some context to the recent update and article in the paper. Generally accepted accounting rules which govern IMET and its members states that in order to be realizable, the event has to meet two criteria. It has to be likely to occur and it has to be measurable. So the first wave of recovery meets these criteria. These are the hard assets from the thief that was willfully turned over to the courts for liquidation into the IMET trust. These assets included houses, luxury cars, jewelry, boats, and 5 hotels. The fifth and final remaining hotel has a $25 million bid pending the court's approval on the 29th of this month. After accounting for these liquidations and the cost of recovery, the net realizable value was reduced to 47.6%. The next wave of recoveries are difficult to quantify and will take longer, so they're not able to be included in the percent of net realizable value. These recoveries include, but are not limited to, IMET's lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The IMET members have been leaning on the state representatives for support in the court system. It also does not include potential recoveries from claims against third parties or co-conspirators. It also does not include potential recoveries from fraud insurance coverage from both IMET and the advising agent's coverage. It does not include potential recoveries from litigation against third parties from the more than 250 subpoenas issued. And it also doesn't include recoveries from assets in the estate that the courts currently cannot put a value on. So there's quite a bit to go, quite a bit more recoveries to be made, and I'll keep the board informed as recoveries are received.
All right. Is it possible you could give that information to whoever puts everything on the website?
Oh, certainly.
This way, if anyone wants to read it, it's their phone.
We have been keeping that website up to date with any letters that we have received on behalf of the subject, and we will post what John's just read on the website tomorrow.
Yeah, it just came out today, so.
Yeah. So it's certainly a bad situation, but not nearly as grim as presented in the paper. That's just one facet of it. So it will take a lot of time for this to be recovered. And as the recoveries come in above the 47.6%, there'll be income to the village. So I will update as it comes in.
Thank you, Ben. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sawyer? Okay, can clerk?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. So I'm a member of the Fest Committee along with Trustee Costa and Trustee Caprio. And what we're looking to do this year is perhaps have a vendor tent where independent businesses can sell their crafts or their products. So if anybody's interested, they can email me here at the village at aholtz@homerglen.org. We are also looking for sponsors for the fest. We've always had sponsorships opportunities, but they're changing a little bit this year, and I have a little printed brochure over there if anybody's interested. We're kind of expanding a little bit. And then lastly, early voting starts Monday morning at 9 a.m. right here at the village board meeting hall, and it goes until March 12th. So looking to see everybody come out.
Thank you. Village attorney,
No report, Your Honor.
public safety officials,
No report.
village manager.
I just wanted to report that we have, and we meaning the committee who is working on the whittling down the RFP submitters for the master park plan. We've been reviewing them and we whittled it down from 18 to a top 3. We're looking forward to interviewing them next week, and we're trying to stay on schedule. If you look at the RFP, there's a built-in schedule there, and in order for us to get this done as quickly as possible, we'd like to do a presentation with the top 2 or 3 firms at the March 10th board meeting. So that's what we're hoping to do, and I just wanted to alert the board that we're just staying on top of that project.
Okay, has the committee sat down with the 3 that they have?
No, it's
presented?
scheduled for next week.
Okay, so as soon as they're done, then it's going to come to us, the meeting.
Right. We're just going to do a preliminary, we're going to sit through preliminary presentations, ask questions, and whittle it down if possible, and if not, if all 3 are fantastic, then we'll bring all 3 to the board for their review.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions?
No, I have a question on the March 10th board meeting. Are they going to come back in to do brief presentations to the board entirely?
Yes, absolutely. We could do that as part of the workshop portion. Or if the board prefers, if we have more than 2, we end up with 3, we could schedule a special meeting. It's entirely up to the board, whatever you'd like to do, whatever's easier. But traditionally, we've done it where the firms have come during the workshop portion and done the presentation, and the board can ask questions at that time.
What do we have on the agenda for the 10th?
I'm trying to keep it light.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. All right, next will be public comment. If we could please keep it under 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. But we will listen to whatever you have. First one is Peter Turek.
Good evening. I'm good. Yourself?
Good.
Good. I've been a resident of the area for over 28 years. I live in unincorporated Orland Park, but I've been a customer, as many of you have, of the water companies, whether it be Derby Meadows, Citizens Utility, or now American. Back in '95, when I first proposed the idea of going with the Lake Michigan water into our area, they had costs associated with that. Now they're telling us, because I did reach out to the ICC in December, and I spoke with, I do this quarterly, and I spoke with another representative from Illinois American. They're telling us that the Lake Michigan water charges that are on the bill will be in there indefinitely. That was not the original agreement. The original agreement was that once the 59% of the initial cost was paid off, roughly $19 or $20 million of the pipeline, that fee would be removed. And that was the initial, that was the initial agreement. And I do have documents.
That was with which company, though?
That was with Citizens Utility, but with the Illinois American buying them, they bought the agreements that were existing. And I do have copies of all transactions for that.
Okay. We'd like those.
Okay.
We have also contacted Illinois American Water and sat down with Vice President and 2 other employees of it and tried to explain it to them, where we don't understand what they're trying to do is they're raising the sewer rate $22.25, and then they're raising the water rate for $3.46, which I guess I can understand if the water rate is being raised by the city of Chicago, and I have read that they're going to jack the price up. But when it comes to the sewer, that should not be any part of any of our residents paying one penny for rebuilding the sewer system.
Correct.
Because it's just like another business. If something breaks in your building, I'm not gonna go to the neighbors and say, here, I need some money to replace this. They told us that they have the right to be able to do this, but if they had a right, then I don't think they'd be going before ICC to get it approved. What we are in the process of doing, because they raised it for everyone that's in the state of Illinois.
Right.
We are in progress of contacting every village, city, municipality that handles American Water. We would like to at least get all the mayors together, but if we could get all the mayors and all the trustees together and all go downstate and sit for, if it's ICC or whatever the case may be, because every time they've gone for the raise, they've gotten it. And every time that we've had law firms, which is only twice because it was senseless to send the lawyers down there because it was just costing us money, they wouldn't hear us. What it is right now, this is just robbery. So we are working on it, but I would like those copies if you could please, take care of those copies that he does have and just photocopy them, please.
We do it after.
But just so we can get some, we are working on it. We're not sitting still for this one, because it's gotten way out of hand.
It is, and like, I know people that live in Phoenix or Denver, when I tell them how much we're paid, we pay on the average, they look at me like I'm, I've been drinking.
Yeah, and Illinois American, well, Illinois American Water is also out in Arizona,
Yeah.
but they don't charge anywhere close to what, and it's gotten to the point where, they got us held hostage.
Yeah, they told me back in December that we're paying for the cost of maintenance for pipeline in other municipalities. And I'm like, well, that's
Right.
that's not our responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're on the same page.
Okay, great.
So we will work on that.
Excellent.
All right, thanks, Mr. Turner. Okay. Wayne Fairbrother?
Well, I was going to ask you questions about IMET, but you beat me to the punch there, so good job.
Well, do you have any, did Mr. Sawyer's answer your questions, Owen?
Well, when I see what's on the website, I'll
Okay.
pine on it.
And if you do have any questions, you'll call into the village.
Okay.
We'll start with the most recent and work backwards, because it's like last week's gas prices. There's rapid movement throughout the process and the changes.
Okay, so that is it for public comments. We appreciate them. Yes, sir.
One last comment. I believe they may be also blending lake water with well water. Because I've spoken with other people who live in the village. I'm Easton, unincorporated Orland Park. But I believe they may be blending it with the Derby Meadow waters. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm getting some of that water too, but I talk with people, they're like, we go away for a week of vacation in the summertime, we come back, there's a rust stain in our toilet bowl, it's odd, there should be no rust there.
And that should not happen.
And that should not happen. Now, I do know water treatment companies. Would that be something the village be interested in having samples taken to see what water level or what water quality is?
We could look into that.
Right.
Okay. We are on the consent agenda. It's this is a short list. Consider for approval the village's Chicago Wilderness membership dues for 2016. Consider for approval the Village of Homer Glen's portion of the Northern Will County Water Agency's biannual budget for fiscal year 2016 in the amount of $57,354.16. Consider for approval the village's December legal bills from Mahoney, Silverman, and Cross LLC in the amount of $2,508, which would be for December, and then $6,907.99, which would be January.
So moved.
By Trustee Costa.
Second.
By Trustee Berrien. Is there any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote? Oh, no, wait. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we'll have her call the roll. Okay. Okay. So legislation and action items. Yeah, call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, that's a good voice. Okay, legislation and action items. First one is a motion to approve the audit engagement letter from MPS for audit services fiscal year 4/30/2016 through 4/30/2019.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there discussion?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Questions? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Can I maybe explain my abstain?
Yeah.
I think it's important that I explain my abstain because anything that involves MPS, I deal with them at work, I deal with them personally, and Mr. Mulcahy is a personal friend, so I feel it's best if I just abstain from anything that involves MPS.
That's fine. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers abstains.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve a public utility license agreement and an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Homer Glen and the Forest Preserve District of Will County related to the construction of 159th Street water main?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I would like if Director Selimovich can give the residents, give everybody a little bit of background on the license and the reason.
Sure. As the board knows, we're in the process of preparing plans for the construction of the water main along 159th Street. The majority of the water main will be constructed in the IDOT's right-of-way. However, in front of the Forest Preserve property, IDOT actually does not have right-of-way. They have an easement from the Forest Preserve. So in order for us to construct portions of the water main, some of the water main actually will be out of there in the old IDOT right-of-way, but portions of it, the hydrants, will be located within the Forest Preserve easement. So in order for us to construct that, we had to get permission from the Forest Preserve to construct and maintain those utilities. We did meet with them. We worked out, basically provided them copies of the plans. Their requirement is to obtain the construction license, and then as part of that, the typical construction license fees would be approximately $50,000. They're going to waive those fees in order for and require or ask for a future tap on for the water. They have I think they've proposed in the past a kind of a trailhead. So as part of that agreement, the two agreements that we have, one is the license agreement, the other one is the intergovernmental agreement, waiving their fee and basically providing the information for the tap on.
Are there any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye. Motion carries. Next will be consider for approval, public utility license agreement. Oh, wait, next page. Next page. I'm sorry, but I'm upset about Northern Illinois. They just, they can't quit beating everybody up. All right, consider for approval the annual review and approval of the mayor and village board standard operating procedures, standard operating procedure number 1 through 11.
So moved.
Trustee Costa,
I'll second.
Trustee Caprio, are there any questions or any discussion?
No, I would just like to comment that there are very minimal changes that were done. So residents know.
We will also update that once we have the mayor sign off on each one of the SOPs. We'll update last year's SOPs and we'll put on the ones that were just approved by the board.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Could you, Madam Clerk, please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4, consider approval for resolution number 16-004, a resolution directing village staff to not enforce the 91-day maximum annual display time permitted for temporary signs. Section 10-6-5B for 159th Street corridor business for the duration of the IDOT 159th Street road improvement project.
I so moved.
Trustee Cabrio. Second.
Second.
Trustee Costa. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I do have some questions, further related, this was in A&F. Now, the businesses, to clarify, the businesses need to obtain an annual permit.
Yes, if they want to use promotional banners, it's an annual permit. It goes on the calendar year, and the cost of that permit is $25.
So everybody's permit expires on the 31st of December.
Correct, correct. And I just want to make one clarification. In my packet, I have an updated supplement sheet that reflects the discussion that occurred at the ANF committee meeting. And what was just read into the record was the prior. Because the new motion has the expiration of.
He was reading off of the agenda. He didn't read the actual motion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Page, so that's what.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Our motion says the same thing as your thing,
Okay.
with the 1-year expiration.
Okay.
Should we reread?
I could reread
Mayor
it.
could reread it.
Okay. Motion for consideration. There is a motion to approve resolution number 16-004, a resolution directing village staff to not enforce the 91-day maximum annual display time permitted for temporary signs for 159th Street corridor businesses through December 31st, 2016. Further deadline extension beyond December 31st, 2016, subject to village board approval. So, like they said, it expires on the last day of December. They have to renew it. IDOT is going to put up signs for all the businesses showing an address, and then the village is going to put up signs showing the name of the business. We're going to allow the banners, so this way it stands out a little bit more, because with the road construction, it would be harder for everyone to see everything as they're driving down the street. Normally, these are not permitted, but the businesses are under, it's hurting the business. We just can't let that happen. So we will allow it until until the end of 2016, make sure it works out fine, and they have to come back in and get another permit for another year.
Mayor, can you clarify, when you're saying banner, we're talking ground-mounted signs or something on the wall of the building?
Correct.
Now, since the village is sponsoring a business identification sign, those yellow signs for each business on 159th Street, is that counting towards one of the 2 temporary signs?
No.
So in essence, they would be 3 signs, and you have strip malls, you could have 30-some signs?
No. The business identity signs that the village is sponsoring as a special village project is simply that. It's a project that the village has undertaken in order to support the businesses during an impactful time with road construction. So it's completely separate from the sign code. And those signs were designed with IDOT standards in mind, so that it would hold up to the weather, the duration of the project, and the fact that they're going to be sitting as portable signs in the driveways of businesses. And it's simply going to have the business name on it, okay? Multi-tenant centers will have a ground-mounted sign on private property in front of those, again, just with the business name on it. Separate from that special program is this resolution that would direct staff to not enforce what is normally a 91-day out of the entire calendar year limit for using what is what we consider to be promotional, business promotional signs. And those kinds of signs must be, they're just weather resistant, so typically vinyl material. It can be no larger than 25 square feet. It needs to be either ground mounted or wall mounted. The code does provide that one of each could happen at the same time. But again, the total display time normally would only be 91 days. This resolution is just allowing staff to not enforce, or directing staff to not enforce that time limit for the 159th Street corridor businesses, only for those businesses impacted by the IDOT road construction project. Originally it was just to go for the duration of the road construction project. However, you know, this is something that all other aspects of this program would be enforced, so it has to be a 25 square foot limit in terms of size. It has to be, you know, ground mounted or on the wall. If it becomes unsightly or a business is abusing it and putting out too many signs, code enforcement does need to respond to that and pull that back in. And the idea was, at the ANF committee, was to just allow this to go in this direction until the end of this calendar year, and then the village board could reevaluate if it wishes to extend for like another calendar year. And this could go on year, you know, 1 year to the next until the project is finished.
And this is only for the businesses that are fronting 159th Street?
Right.
So
And
anybody on
they're-
Anico Drive and/or Bell Tower Plaza, in the plaza, we would restrict them from being able to have.
The resolution actually named certain businesses that are, although their addresses are on side roads, they are impacted by the road construction project. So,
That's only 4 businesses.
correct, correct.
I think our concern was that we would have strip centers that would have all of these banners, but if you, in your head, if you drive down 159th Street, you're really only, there's not a lot there where there's a multi-tenant usage there, but how are we going to control that?
Well,
If, you know,
the code itself right now says that when you have a multi-tenant center, you can't have more than, banners have to be spaced out 50 feet apart. And also, placement of banners are supposed to be with the landlord's consent. And then it does have to be on private property, and it should be 5 feet off the property line. So those are things that are already in the code, and those are things that we would have to enforce.
Are the landlords signing up on the permits, on the application?
When the permit is given, the planning director should be checking that the landlord has provided consent. There should be some statement from the landlord.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Before you do the roll call, could you verify the motion and second?
To reaffirm the motion, actually. Remember we read it, it was changed a bit.
So that would be Trustee Cabrio and Trustee Costa.
Correct. So now if you could please call the vote.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Speed? Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Number 5 will be consider for approval a motion to waive the formal bidding process and approve an agreement with Landscape Supply Incorporated for the Spring 2016 Public Parkway Tree Clearing Program at a not-to-exceed amount of $58,500, and the Fall 2016 Public Parkway Tree Planting Program is a not-to-exceed amount of $58,500. Any motion?
I so move.
Trustee Squeeze, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Caprio, is there any discussion?
We asked Sue to explain, because I struggled with this in A&F, and Sue has a pretty good explanation as to why we should move in this direction.
When we hire somebody to plant the trees, one of the main problems is that you have a very limited window to plant the trees. There's like a shelf life. It's either in the spring, you're fighting the heat and leaking out for the summer, and in the fall, you're fighting getting them into the ground before it's frozen. And you can't plan the date for planting the trees because it's all based on weather. So So when you have a problem with a landscaper or a contractor that's planting the trees, and you can't just say, I want to stop the job, because you've got these trees that are waiting to go into the ground, and then what's going to happen? So we have this ability to have a contractor that we've used in the past. They were the lowest bidder. Last spring, we had sent out bid requests to 45, I think it was, different landscapers. 9 responded, and this was the lowest bidder. And they did a great job, and it's like hiring personnel. You know, you've got somebody that's doing a good work. I'd like to keep them, and it would just be a lot easier than to have to do this, reinvent this whole wheel of waiting for bids and hoping that whoever the lowest bidder is going to be able to do a good job. Does that help?
Yes. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, is there a motion to approve the purchase of equipment in the amount of $198,661.52 for the future maintenance of the village's parks and trails? It is understood that this amount will be funded from the fiscal year 2015-2016 park fund. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Trustee Solis.
Second.
Second, Trustee Costa. Discussion?
Well, I'd like to have Mr. Robinson maybe explain to the residents, explain a little bit about the program and the benefits.
Well, the benefits, as you can see, we have a list in the packet of things that were covered and then not covered by our past landscaping contracts. And basically what they did is they came out, cut the grass in the parks, and emptied the garbage cans during the grass cutting season. That didn't include any weeding, mulching, edging. It didn't include maintenance of equipment, which we're going to do. Didn't include cleaning of equipment due to weather vandalism. Didn't include any maintenance of trees or watering. It didn't include maintaining any of the signs in the parks. It didn't include emptying the garbage cans at Woodbine. We were still doing that. As far as park structures and the equipment in the parks, in the list here, basically it didn't cover any of that. We still have to maintain the buildings. We still have to, for the pavilions that are in the parks, the park benches, the tables. The lighting that's in Stonebridge Park has path lighting and sports lighting that have to be maintained. And then we have 2 parks that have electrical services, and there's 3 parks that have sprinkler systems that wasn't included. So, and then we go on to the trail system. The trail system, basically what they were doing is cutting a strip down each direction along the edge of the trails. And there's more to it than that. There's culverts that have to be maintained that go under the trails. There's people put garbage out there. They don't clean up after their animals. And there's benches along the trails. We have trail crossing lights that have to be maintained. We're almost constantly checking the fences that go over the creeks and replacing broken rails or broken posts on the fences. There's some signage on the trails. We're hoping to add trail markers at some point. There was also, when it came to snow removal for the parks, there was no snow removal for the 2 small parking lots that we had between Stonebridge Park and Erin Hills Park, and there was no snow removal for Woodbine. So these are all things that are encompassed in with that equipment that we're looking to get. So, and then as well with building maintenance is included in that as well. So these are all things that we weren't getting before that we're going to get now, so,
Purchasing is something like that.
right.
And I feel that if there's issues, like if residents call in, you would be able to
Right.
address those issues instead of waiting for the next
Right.
week
One
or
of,
two.
one of the other problems that we did have with the grass cutting contractors, they only came to Homer Glen on Fridays. And so if there was a problem that we noted, their supervisor wouldn't come out till the next Friday. Then we would point out the problem to them, and then they would address the issue the very next Friday. So as opposed to being able to go out and address an issue, that day or the next day, it was an issue of we had to wait sometimes, depending on when we got a call or a complaint, we might have to wait 2 weeks before the contractor would be able to resolve the issue. So
what it is, we're getting a lot more done to the landscaping itself, and then we're also fixing electrical problems, building problems. They're just maintaining everything. 'Cause a lot of the parks, we've gone over to some of them where the kids damaged them. At least I hope it was kids. And no one does anything about it. So now we have our own people that are going to do it. And it's without putting most villages have parks department and park districts. But if we have that, that's a tax. So we decided to do it this way, where we put someone that is on our staff in that position. So there's still no municipal tax, and we're getting a lot more done than what we did before. So it's a win-win.
And we're looking to see an ROI in about 3.5 years, correct?
That's correct. It's a difficult calculation because of the unknown factors, but I think that we should certainly recover it. I think a better statement of value is that the cost of this equipment is probably less than the services, the contracted services that we'd have to pay to have this work done. And the capital outlay is probably only 7 years, the way John does things, probably longer. So
I'd like to applaud you all on the comprehensive list, because that was very well put together.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Any other?
I think it's also important to note that John's going to have support now too, that he'll have people helping him, whereas before it was just the people that you see in this office that were out cleaning the culverts, picking up the waste on the properties and things like that. So with this, we'll be bringing on some temporary support, correct, for the summer?
yeah, we're hoping, the seasonal, bringing people on for the season.
So this way we keep the cost down and pay. And yes, thank you, John. It was a very good spread, so this way we at least saw what we were going to be spending and how fast we could complete it. So are there any other comments? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 7 is there a motion to approve the attached invoice from General Code in the amount of $3,471? What this is about is for finalizing the General Code book. So do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Varian?
Aye. Motion carries. And last for consent is consider for approval TRIA Architects invoices for professional services related to the Village Hall renovation project in the total amount of $111,809.03. And this is for October, November, and December.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Trustee Caprio and Trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Just so you do know, and I mentioned it in the mayor's report earlier, we did meet with the construction company that we hired. They are very confident that they will be done by June 15th, and we can move in, which we have this building until the end of July, so we don't run into a problem where, God forbid, something came up and they didn't finish the building. And we got everything we asked for, And again, we came in almost $800,000 cheaper than what was previously said we were going to spend. So, with that being said, is there any old business? Oops, roll call.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Trees? Trustee Barry?
Aye. Now motion carries. Is there any old business? Is there any new business?
Yes, Mayor. At a previous meeting, I reported that the Fest Committee was looking into weather-related insurance for our annual event. I passed out 2 quotes to each one of the trustees, paper put together, and the color-coded. One is green and one is orange on the numbers. We also have a 3rd quote, but when that came back, it actually, from a different company, it actually came back to one of the quotes we already had, so there's no reason to have 2 of the same, from the same company. What the committee has been discussing this, and we did in 2013 also, and in 2013, the board decided not to take out the Fest insurance. The Fest Committee talked about this for a couple meetings briefly, well, the first time briefly, and again this past month. And we came up with the consensus that we are not going to recommend to the board to get Fest insurance, but we recommend that the board itself get together with the township and see if the boards would want to get this insurance. We did not have it in our budget to get it, our Fest budget. There is quite a bit to it. When you think about it, you're betting on exactly what time of the day it's going to rain and how much it's going to rain. If it exceeds that, you cash in on insurance policy. If it does not, then you don't. You take out insurance for certain hours. If you take it out from 2 to 4 on a certain day, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, if it rains 1 inch of rain and stops at 2 o'clock, you get nothing. If it starts raining at 4:03 and you get 1 inch of rain, nothing. It has to happen within the hours that you're insuring. To insure the Fest for all of the hours and all 4 days would be a lot of money. So what we did was just go to certain hours each day and for a certain amount. So I know we've discussed this in the past. Does anybody have any questions about the insurance, how it works? But I would recommend for trustees and the mayor to take a look at this and possibly get together with the township board or township supervisor, see if they're interested in the boards taking out the insurance. And again, the Fest does not have that in our budget to do it. It's about $7,000 roughly to insure certain hours for 4 days. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Costa. Okay, is there any other new business? Then I need a motion to go into executive session for discussion on land acquisition and personnel.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Trees? Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess, and we are not,
Yeah, so wait.
we won't have any action taken.